welcome to another video. In this video, I am playing a visual novel called Witch on the Holy Night. Now, I haven't. It was $80, by the way. But also I haven't done too much research on this one. It's supposed to be very good. It has overwhelmingly positive reviews. And it just chucked me right into it without giving me any sort of menu screen or anything. So I guess we'll just start reading. I guess. It was a winter's day 8 years ago, that solemn morning when she understood the value of life for the very first time. Interesting. Her home was nestled on the side of a mountain. Around it was nothing but inhospitable wilderness. She had no neighbours, childhood friends to speak of. Things like travelling to school or playing outside were more trouble than they ought to be. Indeed, with its pure water and bright stars, was a place rich with memories both frustrating and halcyon. Okay, I think I actually don't understand how to pronounce that word, bro, because I have no idea. That was only during summer, though. Winters in those mountains are extremely frigid, each morning more severe than the last. Her father would drive her to the train station. After waiting 10 minutes for the engine to warm up and iced over windows to clear. Mind's tying up the car for me. Her father would save her his morning coffee, leaving it a inch outside and rev the engine. Out the front door she would go, traversing the garden with icy breath until she reached that old sedan. As always, she inserted the key, then started the ignition. The engine rumbled to life. Just as she proudly finished that humble task she'd done so many times before. I like this background, it's like hand-drawn. Don't know what that was. A shrill scream pierced the air. She knew, even though it wasn't human, that the feeble sound was a cry of agony. Oh boy. A few moments passed. The father came out and opened the hood of their car, creaking fan belts. A monstrous-looking engine, and something that didn't belong. There was a cat, a mother by the looks of it, and 2 kittens. 3 cats were huddling the warmth of the engine's compartment. The mother cat was missing its what? The fuck? The kittens had been mangled beyond recognition by the engine belts and surely died as they— What the fuck?! I probably shouldn't say that so loud. The other kitten, its face half covered in blood, panted faintly. What the hell?! It desperately clung to its mother, or rather, the chunk of meat that had been its mother. What the hell is this? With the last bit of loathing and muster, poor things. Their father lamented their plight. The previous night had been especially cold. After he had returned home yesterday, the cats must have stuck under the hood, drawn by the warmth of the engine. They had slept next to the engine and awoken to a storm of spinning bells. Cars in the 80s were not sealed particularly well, so this was not unheard of. Okay, it wasn't your fault. Her father's voice seemed distant. She could only make out a small tuft of the kitten's grey fur. The rest of it was caked in the blood of its mother and brother. What the hell? You don't dwell on it! Don't dwell on it! I can see its What? The fragile life of a speckled kitten, trembling and possibly blind, it continues nuzzling as its deposition. What the hell is this? She took the kitten into her arms and ran deep into the mountains to her grandfather's house. Was it because she was overcome with regret? Was it the shock of grief years later? She still wasn't sure. Fighting back the welling tears. Okay, hold on. Let me just give this a... Mature 17 plus. Okay, well I'm old enough. I am. I literally turned that age last month. It's got strong violence. I did not know this. I was completely unaware of this. Anyways, fighting back the welling tears, she burst into her grandfather's workshop. Her grandfather was a magician who could do anything. She had never seen magic. She knew that magic was a fantasy straight out of fairy tales, but so was her grandfather. She had to find him. He was the only one who could help. Suppose you want me to alter this kitten's fate? The cave-dwelling magician said indifferently. This kitten needs our help, she pleaded. Whether it was a simple task or a Herculean labour, her grandfather would not say. I simply granted the girl's childish wish like a machine. I know, the girl said. Oh, she probably killed the kitten because maybe it wasn't going to die before. Oh boy, hold on, I just want to check something, check another thing. Which of the Holy Night? I just want to check super quickly. Well, I don't think it's a horror, but I feel like it should have that in there. Because this is a bit... Yes, a bit of a... Yes. Anyways, we'll just keep going. We'll keep going with this. Before she knew it, however, she was holding a tiny corpse in a fucking crowd. Why is this here, bro? What is this? That's what it was called. The warmth of life had left his body, and the tears she fought to hold back poured from her eyes. What the hell, dude? Her regret spread through her chest like an endless grey sky. I don't know if I can handle it. I mean, I'm gonna play it all the way through to the end. I'm going to play this game all the way through to the end since I paid $80 for it, but I don't know how to feel about this. I do not know how to feel about this at all. We were too late. Some things cannot be undone. Her mind struggled to come to grips with what had just occurred. The last 10 minutes were total blank. Who she met, what she had known, it was all as if it had never happened. The only thing she was sure of was that life, once extinguished, can never return. Somebody there? That day, it was a mistake that gave birth to me. Indeed. Whatever occurred that day, it was a day of nostalgia and longing. This is the fairy tale of 8 years ago, the day they first met that no magic could ever bring back. Arrogant, greedy, and able only to destroy, I must be a wolf. Don't have regrets, there's no looking back. My pride has left you behind, my sincere condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of Little Red Riding Hood. One strange one. Interesting. It was a quiet morning. From her bed, she could see the sky was an ashen watercolour grey. The thermometer displayed 43 degrees Fahrenheit, a rather unforgiving temperature for November. Her stomach woke her up with a growl, pathetically reminding her that she had completely missed breakfast. But lazy mornings like today's were, for her, a blessing. It was already well past 8 in the morning. On any ordinary weekday, tardiness would be unavoidable, but today, classes were cancelled in commemoration of the school's anniversary. Gratefully, she had every intention of taking it easy for the first time in ages. Outside the window was a gloomy grey, and it reminded her more of evening than morning. It wasn't a pleasant morning by any stretch of the imagination, but having been up all night until just 3 hours ago, she couldn't care less about the weather outside. All she cared about was more sleep. As long as she could spend her morning in bed, what was happening outside was of no concern to her. She shut the curtains, then closed her eyes and tried to let sleep reclaim her. Like a nice uneventful dream for 2 hours, thank you. Blissful slumber found her soon enough. Her consciousness faded. However, her simple request would be mercilessly refused. A faint but shrill sound lingered in her ears. It was the unmistakable ring of a telephone. Much to her chagrin, her eyes popped open out of habit. Oh, come on. Why today of all days? The telephone was situated in the foyer on the first floor. Answering it meant walking down a 30-foot corridor and going down a flight of stairs. In her sleep-deprived state, that distance seemed somewhere between incredibly far and astronomically far. The phone's incessant ring continued. She knew the caller would eventually give up if she ignored it, but she chose to fight the urge. Why doesn't Alice answer it? She thought her housemate would get it, but she soon had to abandon all hope. The realization struck that her housemate did not have the day off from school and was likely in class at a prestigious little hilltop academy. The caller proved incredibly persistent. Their persistence made the volume of the ringing seem even louder. Try to sleep here. She was left with no choice but to get up, throw a top on, and leave the room. God, it's cold. She rubbed her hands together to warm her numb fingers. The mansion's heating system was inadequate, to say the least, which meant that winter was the very worst of uninvited guests. This must be on the other side of the world from where I am, because it's like spring right now. Or, yeah, spring. Yeah. Never more so than on a dreary morning as this, which, when one didn't need to use a thermometer to know how cold it was. The mansion sat in the mountains and was surrounded by dense forest. Winter always arrived here first, before moving on to nearby towns. The robotic ring of the telephone reverberated throughout the long hallway. The mansion's furnishings had been so perfectly maintained that it made the place feel unlived. It seemed lonelier than it did splendid. Coupled with the dreary morning, it could have passed for a haunted house. Well, it is a haunted house, I suppose. It's too large for just the two of us. She counted more than 30 rings since it first began. The caller either had a lot of free time with their hands or had a good understanding of the house's circumstances. She had a strong hunch that it was the latter. I like that the camera moves, and it's not just static. The window above looked out into a gloomy sky. She hastened to catch the unrelenting ring in the act as soon as possible, though she had a feeling that a happy morning might come to a close the moment she caught it. It was here that a series of incidents began. Apologies for the lack of romance to this tale. Whether it be objectively true or merely supposition, it is always gloomy and unassuming beginnings that extraordinary events are set into motion. Planning Takashi Takeuchi Kanoko Nasu. I'm guessing this is the credits. I guess the credits are rolling now. At the beginning. I'm guessing I don't know if this is the opening or not, but we'll let it run through. I don't know if I can skip it anyway. So that was an incredibly disturbing start to this game. Like... Traffic lights. Lead background artist, Ayuro. Graphics, Takao Aotsuki Shimakoshi. Aotsuki, probably more like. Lead programmer, Kiyobi. Gorgeous frame. Witch on the Holy Night, yeah. So again, I don't know if there's anything I need to cut out. I won't cut out, like, violence, but since I'm not monetized, but I will cut out, like, if there's by chance any nudity in it, then I will cut that out, but I don't think there will be. The rain had subsided somewhat by the time she reached the school gate. The sunlight seemed to be playing peekaboo behind the clouds in the distance. Looked like it might be cleared up by early afternoon. Not that it has anything to do with me, though. The weather reflected her luck. On top of being forced out of the house at such an early hour, she had to suffer through a winter rain. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. The sinking feeling she had only grew as she passed through the entrance and headed inside. Expelled! She didn't encounter any other students along the way, nor did she see anyone taking part in club activities either. The reception desk of the faculty room simply read faculty closed. The school had given all of its students the day off, except those explicitly summoned, like her. In fact, that irked her more and more as the minutes passed. She opened the door to the faculty room and headed towards the desk. She had visited a number of times before. The man at the desk wore a plain shirt and suit that were nonetheless neatly pressed. Slim-framed glasses adorned his face, giving off an amicable yet cunning air. The mild-mannered image this mid-20s man presented clashed with the cigarette he smoked. He didn't appear to have noticed her yet. She closed the door with a bang. Showing no response to the sudden sound, Mr. Yamasiro lifted his head.
Yeah. Ohayo.
Hey there, good morning, Miss Aozaki. I guess this means you got the call. Yes, they called me at home about an hour ago, out of the blue. Having graduated from this high school himself, Mr. Yamasiro was not much older than the rest of the students. For that reason, the students preferred him over the other teachers. Of course they did. He always had something interesting to talk about, keep conversations casual. In fact, he seemed more like an older student than a teacher, but she unfortunately didn't share her fellow students' fondness of him. She was of the opinion that teachers should come across as more austere. Like an iron fist, they could inspire both love and hate in equal measure, not a buddy to joke and pal around with. He was the exact opposite of how she felt a teacher should be, so natural that her manner towards him would be forced and unfriendly. Not that she'd ever been wired to make friendly small talk. You're in a foul mood today. You must be imagining it. I'm like this every day. The matter-of-fact answer perfectly matched the displeasure displayed in her face. A bad mood from having to get up early and the tiredness from staying up late must have collectively made her look positively adversarial. These long words, I like them. I like the vocab. If you say so, just go easy on our guest, okay? To be honest, we're not completely sure how to deal with them yet. Well, do you want to tell me what the hell is going on? Because I have no clue. I just want to check something real quick. Do. Okay, so this comment here says, well, it might be lighter than some of its sister entries, which on the Holy Night still takes place in the Nasu verse. As such, expect there to be a fair degree of nightmare fuel present. I'm a little nervous. As Mr. Yamasiro made her piercing eyes, he finally understood the reason behind her tone and slowly put out his cigarette. Put out his cigarette. Oh, you're right, yeah, blew it out. Okay. Let's start at the beginning. What did they tell you over the phone? Just that I'd be introduced to a transfer student. They were a little hazy on the rest, though. When Mr. Yamasiro's eyebrows stood up, impressed with the brevity of her answer, you could see that she was angry, not because she had been called to school on her day off, but because she had been told why she was here. Mr. Yamasiro chuckled sympathetically. This is all a joke to you. Perhaps I should just go home. Wait, I didn't mean to laugh. This is not a practical joke. We could really use your help. So it really is a transfer student? Yes, but he has, how should I put it, difficult circumstances. His name is Sojiro, and he's a bit, well, peculiar, so we thought someone around the same age would be best suited to show him the ropes. She threw him an unamused look. It was negligent of them to be pushing teaching duties on her, but she did wonder how exactly this transfer student was peculiar. Maybe he meant the student had behavioural problems or was difficult somehow. But peculiar? She didn't have the slightest idea what that meant. You don't hear a teacher call someone that every day. She had her doubts but swept them aside for now. This wasn't the time to get distracted by more concerns. The fact remained that this conversation was all the peculiar she could handle, and she needed more information. She was already beginning to fantasize about saying no and curling up in a warm bed at home. I have a question. What is this frame, guys? Yes, he's a second year student. Like you, he's well behaved and a good listener. He's not the most energetic individual, but that just means he'll be easier to get along with, right? He's not in the same homeroom class as you, but I'm sure you'll get along just. I'll be the judge of that when I actually meet him. And none of that answered my question, why me? Though her tone was still stern, it was clear that she was willing to cooperate. She had decided to put her feelings of dissatisfaction aside and focus on the task at hand. Forcing herself to act empathetic in spite of her self-absorbed nature was something she was used to. Paradoxically, this force of will was also the reason teachers put so much faith in her. To a point. At times, their strength shattered expectation, and on those occasions, they were left with no choice but to treat it like a natural disaster and wither it until the past. That was how Mr. Yamasiro had come to deal with her over the past year. I'll ask you one more time, Mr. Yamasiro. Why does it have to be me? Pressured by a question with technically a yes or no answer, he answered. Well, about that. You're probably thinking it's because you're the iron-fisted ruler of the student council and are willing to strike down both teacher and student for the good of the school, but you'd be wrong. Can't imagine any other reason you'd call me. Her eyes did nothing to hide her disbelief, and she glared at him. Strength far beyond that of an ordinary 17-year-old girl, coupled with the youthful beauty of one. Mr. Yamasiro let slip a genuine smile, admiring the miraculous balance of qualities. I mean, I'd handle this myself if it was just about pure obligation. But who gets this job has nothing to do with whether they're a teacher or on the student council. I just felt that you were the only one who would entertain this kind of request without needing to weigh all sides. That's why I insisted it be you. In other words, he knew she wouldn't say no. Oh dear, would you stop glaring at me like that already? At least put on a smile for your new schoolmate. Look, if you're agreeing to help, we should go see him. We've already kept him waiting long enough as it is. And because you braved the rain to get here, I'll be happy to give you a ride home. Mr. Yamasiro stood up gracefully. I'm good, thanks, she replied before turning and walking out of the faculty room. He had been waiting for about an hour. While he did, the rain shower lightened into a drizzle. His mind wandered as he listened to the sound of the raindrops. The room was filled with neatly arranged rectangular tables. He was the only one there. Quite some time had passed since he had been brought to this room and asked to wait. Even the best behaved student might have grown dissatisfied or anxious with the situation by now, but the boy stuck to his spot like a scarecrow. He was chilled to the bone. It was the end of November and the low temperature in the morning and marked the start of winter. The room was not much warmer. The heater hadn't been turned on, either he missed the teacher telling him to turn it on, or he'd never seen one in his life. He breathed lightly on his freezing fingers as he aimlessly surveyed his surroundings. This dreary place was apparently a meeting room. The other students might have considered it a wonderful place to meet, but to him it was drab and overly spacious. It was a lifeless place that reminded him of an arid cave. Stuck in this cold room with absolutely nothing to do, his mind turned to what they wanted to discuss. Herb. Unable to come up with a solid answer, he returned his attention to the sound of the rain. The rain hardly resembled the rain in the mountains, though he could still recognize it, barely. Its smell and sound were harsher, but at the end of the day, rain was still rain. So even this world, alien as it was, could have something in common with the mountains, so I'm guessing he's from a different world or something. That trivial detail perked him up a little. He liked how the town looked soaked in rain. Naturally, he preferred sunny weather, but he liked rain in its own way. The fog from the rain had soaked up the scent of the soil and reminded him of home. It was at times like these that he was able to numb the anxiety the city gave him. But then he let out a discouraged sigh. How pathetic. He'd already been here 2 weeks and thought of his hometown still made him and thoughts of his hometown still made him sad. Perhaps feeling that he was being unfair to his new life, he composed himself and continued to wait patiently. As if having compassion for distractions, his attention returned to the sound of the rain once more. Waiting like this didn't seem to be particularly hard for him. He quietly enjoyed the numbing cold and the hour alone with calm deep breaths. As the saying goes, good things come to those who wait. A strong point of his or not, he was astonishingly patient. It was certainly helping him out in this moment. Ahem, ahem, ahem. She, on the other hand, was livid. The profile of the transfer student had been explained to her on her way to the meeting room. She was told he had lived his whole life up in the mountains without any electricity. That meant more than half of civilized society would have been an utter mystery to him. What a miserable level of isolation. How was this even possible in post-war Japan? He was like Robinson Crusoe. She had every right to be angry. Did she really? His village had apparently remained isolated in the mountains for many years. Contact with villages in the foothills of the mountains had only occurred once a month or so, which was unfathomable in modern Japan. Although expressways in Japan Rail, the old national railways, now spanned the country like arteries, it was entirely impossible for mountain villages like his to exist. But she couldn't imagine how someone born in such circumstances would think or live. Of course she wouldn't. She lives in a mansion. You're saying no electricity, you mean in general, right? Like, you must have had access to a public phone. Apparently not. He mentioned how shocked he was by the phones when he started living here. I kid you not, he said, "Wow, telephones are so useful. Couldn't really deny that, could I?" She shot a sidelong glare his way as he laughed. Seemed that the naive say of the country boy had cheered up Mr. Yamasiro a bit. I probably don't have police officers either. My family home is up in the mountains, so it's not inconceivable they wouldn't have electricity. But he doesn't even know what school is. Nope, he'd never heard of them. This is apparently his first time visiting one. Maybe that's why he's so nervous. He wasn't very talkative. He's almost, what would you call it, feral? Like a boy raised by wolves. Supposed to make this a safari. Hey, you're scaring me, Azaki. I was joking. Go easy, okay? And don't worry, I got the feeling from talking to him that he's a nice kid. He was almost like, I don't know, a cute little animal that doesn't speak human. Your jokes and metaphors aren't helping. As she gave her blunt reply, she tried to simulate in her mind what life without electricity would be like, but the thought of it took her sour mood from bad to worse. After all, it was a world she had never known. She could understand why the teachers had given up. She too wanted to give up and return to her warm bed, but her good-for-nothing pride was holding her hostage. Not only did the teachers believe she was up to the task, but she also believed she could do it. It wasn't that easy to go back on her word, no matter how bad things looked after the fact. She walked along the hallway, the rain pattering in the background. The meeting room was already in sight. With a furrowed brow, she fixed her long hair in anticipation of meeting the unknown stranger within. Her elegant strides were like those of a confident general going into battle. I believe in you and all, but I'll say it again. Be nice, okay? Can you at least try to smile? I'm bad at faking smiles, but I'll do my best. Really? That's a relief. I really mean it. It's good to know you're not good at everything. It's good to know you're not good at everything. Mr. Yamasiro's shoulders slumped at the second they reached the meeting room. As he put his hand to the door, his eyes seemed to say to her, "Be nice, please." This only made him more irritated. I already know I'm not the friendliest looking person in the world, but I can't just make myself smile at the drop of a hat. You should have asked Tobimaru if that's what you were after. She sighed about her social shortcomings, but then it occurred to her that being called into school on a day off while sleep-deprived wasn't anything to smile about anyway. She also thought the person responsible for this mess would be better off attending elementary school. It might not be his fault, but neither was it her duty or obligation to do the teacher's work for them. At the very least, they could have used their brains and organised all this on a normal school day, and had the complaint she wanted to voice later. I hate already, he's my sworn enemy and I haven't even met him. Sorry, but I couldn't care less about his extenuating circumstances. You think this isn't awkward for me too? Honestly, why did this have to happen when I'm so busy? Her pounding headache from a lack of sleep had boosted her aggression by 10%. No matter how harmless the guy on the other side of the door may be, anyone who disturbed her sleep was the enemy. And just as she was reaching the peak annoyance, Mr. Yamasiro opened the door to the meeting room. The room slowly slid into view. She didn't care for formalities, just looked straight ahead and stormed into the room. Found herself face to face with the most unusual opponent. Before we go on, let's see from another perspective. Turning back the clock just a little. You don't have to do anything. For some, these words are a priceless luxury. For others, they're unbearable torture. For the proactive girl, it was definitely the former, though she'd been too suspicious of the motives of anyone giving her such a gift to accept it. For the passive boy, it was definitely the latter, a bitter thought that made him homesick, though at this very moment his mind was still distracted with the wait for his face to reveal any discontent. He maintained perfect posture as he stared at the grey sky. He had already waited a whole hour, but figured they must have had their reasons for making him wait. As long as he had the sound of the rain to soothe him, he could keep on waiting. Must be 9 o'clock already. Yeah, this is about right. He had been vaguely keeping track of the time as he listened to the rain. Due to the holiday, the school building was completely silent, except for the patter of the rain on the window. The moon felt as damp as the air. It was then. He heard the heavy clatter of footsteps approaching. Finally, I thought they'd forgotten about me. He could hear 2 sets of footsteps, one heavier set belonged to an adult. He breathed a sigh of relief as the door slid open. So sorry to keep you waiting. The first person he saw was a man wearing glasses and an awkward smile. That's Mr. Yamasero, the one who brought me here. Hey, where's Mr. Satanaka? I told him to keep you company. He shouldn't have left you here. Mr. Yamasero scratched his head, looking increasingly apologetic. And then from behind him, in comes an aggressive woman. With a tight-lipped expression that made it clear she didn't want to be there. A dark-haired girl with a determined look in her eyes appeared. Sojiro gulped. The sound of the rain on the window faded into nothingness. That's what he knew. This is how it felt when time stood still. She blinked quickly a few times as if taken aback. Why was anyone's guess? The boy was everything she expected a naive country boy to look like, however she felt something she couldn't understand. Rose the magician. His eyes widened slightly as if taken aback. The reason was obvious. Putting his feeling into words was a different matter altogether, so we'll never know exactly what he experienced at that moment. That's when it hit him. He sensed he'd been touched by the hands of destiny. I see. Allow me to introduce the two of you. This is the transfer student I mentioned, Sojiro Suzuki. And this is the girl that will be showing you around. She's our student council president and came in on her day off just to welcome you. Her name is Aoko Aozaki. His voice and the sound of the rain seemed distant. This is how they first met. Such was their start, for better or worse, like the ephemeral beauty of fireworks. It was commonly believed among the students that Aoko was always in a foul mood. But this gossip was 90% prejudice, as Aoko simply didn't have time to be irritated 24/7. The reality was she simply didn't want to explain herself all the time, and therefore seemed angry about something, obvious or not. The sudden gossip did, however, lead to her earning the title of one of the school's 7 deadly threats. The remaining 10% of the gossip was right on the mark. Aoko herself often had the feeling that a tendency to feel animosity toward harmless things was akin to what a chronic headache sufferer might experience. Today fell into that 10%. For today her anger was pure, and her childish and selfish display was befitting of her actual age. The meeting room was dimly lit, awash in the colours of the rain. To reduce electricity costs, school regulations forbid the use of lights during the day. This was the setting the three of them found themselves in. Her first impression was that his calm demeanour reminded her of a field of wild flowers. In spite of his perfect posture, his overall air felt placid, tame even. And though describing him as meek would be going too far, at the very least he was passive. Even though his uniform, she could see that he was thinner than average. His dark hair was unkempt, and he came across as a wholly forgettable boy. If she had to look at him in a more positive light, she would describe him more a young man than a boy. It was his calm demeanour that made him seem more mature. Was that the cause of Aoko's reasonless reaction? He seemed almost too at home in the meeting room, and she was left with the impression that it was her and the teacher, not this outsider, who were the guests here. She felt an unidentifiable aggravation building within her, almost as if her right to be here was in question. Alco felt herself raising her natural defenses.
信じられない。
What's with me?
私、
Am I really this angry for no reason? She hated not understanding things, her own emotions in particular. It pained her less than you would imagine for a perfectionist like her, but still nagged her like a thorn in her side. Ha ha. Yazaki, why don't you introduce yourself? Ha ha ha. Mr. in their face. Mr. Yamasera's attempt to relieve the tension was equally irritating.
挨拶。
Introduce myself, huh? After casting a nasty glance in the teacher's direction, Alco turned to face the boy. From an outsider's perspective, it might have looked like a stare down. And in that instant, the culmination of her emotional state hurtled toward the innocent boy and skewered him. Oh boy.
いや
Okay, sorry for the wait, Izuki. Hearing his name, Sojiro came to his senses. His son gaze shook loose. He took a deep breath to clear his head. Chalking it up to nerves, Mr. Yamasero broke out a smile and turned to the girl standing beside him.
紹介するよ
I'll do the introductions then. This is the transfer student, Sojiro Suzuki.
で
And this is our student council president who came in on a day off just to show you around. Her name is Aoko Azaki. Having been introduced by Mr. Yamasero, the girl took a step forward. Her eyes were merciless. Her stare an unspoken threat to violently trample her opponent. Sojiro, on the other hand, managed to keep his own composure despite the shock at how unconfrontational she appeared. He had never been greeted quite like this before, but supposed, mistakenly, that this was how people treated each other in the city. The exchange must have looked quite dramatic to an onlooker. A girl ready to brawl, an earnest country boy desperate to understand. It was a murderous limbo, especially for anyone in the room with them. Like Mr. Yamasero, for example. While he had thought he had made the right decision in choosing an honest student to help him out, she was in an inexplicably bad mood, and the tension in the air was undeniable. It was this moment that he realized his failure. His realization had come far too late. One false move of this girl, for whom no problem was too large, would becoming a storm that would rock the very foundations of the school. Just as the almighty Joker card could bring either fortune or disaster, this whole teacher, who had been president at the time, would have come to bear the blame for the scandal that ensued.
あ
Wow, you two really seem to hit it off! I suppose I can leave you two to it then? Mr. Yamasero laughed nervously as he crept towards the door.
ー僕は職務室にいる
I'll be in the faculty room. Stop by when you finish. You'll be alright, won't you, Azaki?
なんていうか
You're the student council president. Don't let me down. Mr. Yamasero left, leaving the two in a locked-eyed state, one of which one set of eyes was doing all the glaring. All that remained in the room was an artless boy and a cross-armed, guarded girl. The two lingered in silence. They resembled shogi players and agonizing over their first moves, though it was only Aoko who was reading so much into the situation. She decided to put her irritation aside for the time being. With no reason to feel revulsion for him in the first place, she sighed deeply and faced Sojiro.
まあいいわ。
Whatever, it's not like this is the first time that Mr. Yamasero landed me in it.
それで。
So, what's your name again? Her tone was nothing if not reproachful, though he had done nothing to offend her, but the boy failed to pick up on it. Incapable of such venom himself,
ああしずき
I'm Sojiro Suzuki, he replied. Suzuki, he replied, and you're Miss Azaki, right? For whatever reason, he came across as happy in his response.
さあ
Their face, though.
からじゃない
Drop the mess, that's not my style.
こっちはしずきくん
Is Suzuki fine?
って
What do you mean?
だから呼び方
What do you mean, what do I mean?
何
Hello, did I say something weird?
いやすごく
Yeah, very, the boy replied immediately, as if it was a natural response, but quickly second-guessed himself.
いやいいんだ
Never mind, there must be normal here.
しずきくんで
You can call me Suzuki. You mind if I call you Azaki?
よろしく
Suit yourself. She followed her blunt reply with a swift turn away from him. While she was hardly thrilled at the prospect of the task at hand, it had been entrusted to her, and it was her personal policy to see it through to the end.
悪いけど
Sorry, I'm not in the mood for pleasantries. Time is short, so let's get this over with.
それは助かる
Sure, I know your time is valuable. Ako's blood-red core was lost in him once again. Good face. Humans tend to be overly cautious about being ignored, whatever form that takes. But despite being peeved at landing none of her attacks, Aoko did her best to act professional and Oh well, whatever. There was no sunlight in the hallway nor any sign of life. This was more like a prison than the cave that was in the meeting room. As it dawned on Alco that the hallway matched her mood, she sighed once again.
まず聞いておくけど
First things first, did you understand everything Mr. Yamasero explained to you?
ああ
Yes, I get how the school works.
この建物
But it's still a bit hard to imagine that everyone here is around the same age.
そうよかったわ
I see. Great. Alco rubbed her forehead. This Sojiro kid had no idea what he was in for. Apparently all he'd heard about school was that it was a place where a lot of people met to study. High school teachers imparted to students their knowledge in various fields of study while fostering discipline and creativity. But never did Alco imagine that she would have to explain the concept of school itself to someone. Yes, fundamentals were important, but this was absurd. She had serious doubts whether he could even handle classes, but Mr. Yamasero insisted that things would work out somehow. Sojiro had managed to pass the transfer exam, after all, barely.
私には
Not my problem. Alco grumbled mentally as she walked down the hallway. She consoled herself with the fact that today would be the only day she'd spend with this boy, or at least she tried to keep it that way.
青崎
Hataki, he asked, calmly trying to get her attention. What?
こっちも一つ
Can I ask you something?
だから何
Her face. Dude, the faces remind me so much of actual animes, and it's so good. Yes, what is it?
俺の気のせいだ
I could be wrong about this, but you seem upset about something.
やはり
You're not a morning person, are you? His gaze revealed earnest concern, as if asking her if she'd remembered to eat breakfast. That's such a face, bro. It was like another hammer to her head. It was true that Alco had been glaring at Sojiro the entire time. Glaring red hot daggers, in fact. Not just at him, but the universe. Even on her best days, her roommate used to remark,
青子の姿勢は
Most people can't handle your scowl, Alco. It wouldn't hurt you to be a little more tolerant. She had warned that her emotions were so naked on her face that people treated her like a powder keg. How naive could the boy be that he could not pick up on this?
私をバカに
He's not making fun of me, is he? No, he couldn't be. No, he's not. Even she found her own attempt to reassure herself unconvincing. It began to dawn on Alco far too late that compared to her, this laid-back transfer student might as well have been from another planet.
いいわ言葉にし
Look,
なく
let me
て
spell it
も
out for you.
だから
Because you're just not getting it.
あなたの気のせいじゃ
It's not
ない
your imagination. I am angry. Anyone can see that in my eyes. It's easier than trying to make conversation. In response to her words, the Martian clapped his hands together.
なるほど
It makes sense. I don't know why you'd want to do it that way, but I get that it's the faster way to express yourself. Sojiro accepted her reasoning without argument, though he still had no idea what kinds of emotions she was trying to express. It was as if he could hear the words but didn't grasp the meaning. Ideas that should have connected were instead separated into blocks.
確かにずれ
So it's true, he really is peculiar. Mr. Yamasero's words made sense to her now. What was odd about this boy went way beyond naivete. A stranger in a strange land he may be, but it was only civilized to forgive him some jet lag-induced confusion.
じゃ
Let's visit your classroom. She regained composure. Sojiro raised his hand and stopped in his tracks.
ああと一つ
Just one more thing. Alco waited for Sojiro to continue, the boy's patient to a fault. She rubbed her forehead with her hand again, nursing a vague feeling of uneasiness.
これもちょっとした疑問なん
I
だ
want to ask, why are you so
こうい
angry?
うのが商売とか
Is it your line of business, or does it run in your family? Does it run in your family? Does the anger run in your family, by the way? A long silence. Though she knew it wouldn't change the situation, she remembered her regret at answering the phone that morning. He meant no harm. She repeated this thought like a mantra in an attempt to keep her impulses in check.
別にあなたのせいじゃないから
It's not you if that's what you're worried about. I'm just trying not to think how much better my day would have gone if I had slept until noon. With that vague answer, she started to walk again, and turned to gaze away from this rude stranger named Sojiro Suzuki. While what constitutes normal is certainly up for debate, most undoubtedly referred to him as so. He was a simple and nice boy with nondescript features. If he were an ice cream flavour, he would be vanilla. Bro's vanilla flavour of life. And Sojiro found Alco to be very businesslike and full of life. There was a certain purpose to her movements as they began and ended in an orderly fashion. The way her finger raised when she pointed at things. The way she made her way across the hallways and classrooms. The way she would occasionally glance back at him to make sure he was keeping pace. Each and every movement was so impressive that he couldn't take his eyes off her. That's what you're talking about, bro? Alco showed him to his homeroom, class C of the 11th grade. The room certainly displayed more of a human touch than the previous meeting room, but Sojiro was none the wiser to its function. Alco gave a brief explanation before they visited individual subject classrooms, as well as the gym, cafeteria, locker room, and school infirmary. Sojiro asked so many questions that much time passed before they reached the AV room on the second floor. Oh dear. Sojiro stopped, looking genuinely concerned. It's 20 to 1 already.
嘘でしょうちの
Huh? You're kidding, right? The school isn't that big. We'll be done soon. The tour had begun around 10, which meant that 3 hours had passed. A tour of a school shouldn't take her anywhere near this long.
そうだったわね
Maybe if you didn't ask so many questions, we'd be done by now. It's a miracle there's still light out. Uncle glared at Sojiro. She was being sarcastic, of course, knowing full well he wouldn't even pick up on it. Is he? To his surprise, he looks down apologetically, unable to hide his dejection.
なんだこいつ
Oops, I think I broke him. The guy before her now was nothing like earlier. In contrast, seeing his once impenetrable veneer when they first met, she found herself feeling sympathetic. Momentarily, at least, till her irritation returned to full force.
で
Full force.
何がまずい
What's the hurry? Don't tell me your brain's not big enough to remember all this stuff.
いやそれもあるけど
Well, there's that, but it's more
学校のこと
about
は
it
別にして
almost being 1 o'clock.
まずいんだ
Sojiro's gaze wandered as if worried about something. If he was worried about the weather, he would have a hard time seeing it, as there were no windows in this hallway.
へえ
So tell me, you've got something better to me.
そう
That's perfect. I take time out of my day for you, and you don't even have the decency to hang around. You're a real piece of work, you know that? That face, though. Thanks, I guess. That's nice of you to say.
あれは褒めちゃいない
Not a compliment! She yells at him, unable to hold back her fury.
で
Well?
で
Well, what?
それで
What's happening in 20 minutes? Sojiro's face lit up as he finally understood what she was asking him.
そこは秘密にして
It's a secret. He said with a perfectly straight face.
慣れ始めたつもり
Ugh, every time I think I've got this guy figured out, he finds a way to trip me up. Her frustration was natural. Still, she did everything she could to stifle her feelings and fake a smile.
しずきくん
You want to repeat that, Suzuki? She took a step forward.
秘密だってば
Like I said, it's a secret. Feel the mood changed drastically, so Jiro took a step back. And another. And another. No matter how many steps he took back, she kept heading toward him. She was smiling, but he thought he could see the blood boiling beneath her skin.
これ
Last question. Do you enjoy mocking me? He had no intention of mocking her, though at this point he doubted presenting any evidence to prove this would do much to erase that forced smile on her face.
説明する
Let me explain. His arms raised in surrender. She altered her advance and freed her face from that unseemly smile.
実は1時から
Truth is, though, a part-time job shift starts at 1. The students aren't allowed to have jobs,
そ
right?
うだけど
Yeah, wait, were you being tight-lipped because you thought you'd get in trouble?
秘密にし
All you have to do is get permission, dweeb.
知ってる
I know, and I did. I got permission and they accepted me to the school.
へえ
Really? Ako's face lit up as she realized he might not be the piece of work she thought he'd be. Yet.
しかし
But I only got permission for one of my jobs. Wait, you have more than one job?
これでも2件
Well, I quit 2 of them. Living expenses are bad though, but now I have bad enough, but now I have to earn money for school as well. Do you think it's unreasonable of them to only let me work one job?
あんまりなのは
No, I think you're the one just being unreasonable. Though still irritated, her opinion of him changed a little. She was impressed that he was able to take care of his tuition and living expenses on his own. She could also empathize with having no time to oneself. Her anger began to subside. The words part-time job were about the last thing she ever expected to hear out of this country boy's mouth.
そういうことなら
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Fine, you can go, I get it.
大崎はいいのか
Will you be okay? She had no idea what this question meant, but she at least understood he was trying to be considerate, which also took her by surprise. She figured he'd be just as tense about people's feelings as he was about everything else.
別に
I'll be fine, I'll just head home. First, though, she thought it best that they both stopped by the faculty room. Mr. Yamasero had mentioned that the transfer procedures had already been completed, so all that remained was for him to sign off on her duties.
先生案内終わりました
I finished showing him around.
それはお疲れ様
Great job, that goes for you too, Suzuki. What did you think of our school? Thank you for the tour, it's like a real school. Ha ha ha, that's great to hear. Okay then, best of luck starting tomorrow. She had no interest whatsoever in this pointless wrap-up meeting.
山城先生のことを
You'll have to forgive Mr. Yamasero. He likes the faculty room so much he chooses to kick back there while getting his students to do his dirty work for him. He spends hours in there. Actually, that's pretty smart of him.
そうか
Okay, Ozaki, if you're fine with it, then so am I. Huh? There it was again. Whatever Sojiro was getting at, Alka had no idea.
それじゃあ行くよ。
I'm gonna get going. Thanks again for
今
today.
日だけよ今日だけ
Yes, today. Today only. She shooed him away with her hand. His face bent into a broad smile as if he found the gesture endearing. It was a softer expression than she had grown accustomed to seeing out of him. It was the kind of smile that would make anyone smile back. Well, most people at least. Her name's like a tongue twister, I swear to God. Aoko Aozaki didn't betray the slightest hint of a smile.
それじゃあまた。
See you later. And with that friendly farewell, Sojiro walked toward the end of the hallway. Also, she thought before he turned into the next class over. Did he just... Sojiro headed straight for one of the classroom with the windows, whereupon he opened it with ease. The chilly November air filled the room as the soft sounds of the rain doubled in volume. That instant, she realized his intention with opening the window. She really wished she hadn't.
いや待て待て待て
Stop. He already had one leg out the window and she dashed to stop him.
何するつもりよ
What do you think you're doing? What am I doing? I'm leaving for my job, that's what.
その窓は人が
You do know that this window isn't an exit, don't you? I mean, do you even know what floor you're on? She saw the light of understanding dawn in his eyes.
死ぬところだった。
Oh my god, I almost died. Who would an exit here? This is dangerous.
ないのはあんたのは
It's the lack of something between your ears that's dangerous. Her insult went right over his head.
あのね
People here don't normally enter and exit through windows, okay? You should probably remember this information for future reference.
知ってるよ。
Oh, I know, I just want to say some more time.
これか
But
ら
thanks, be more careful from now on. He pulled his leg back inside and closed the window. His school's uniform was soaking wet from the rain.
いいけど私は
Hey, and be my
あ
guest.
なたがどこから
Go outside any way you like, just don't do it in front of me from now on.
それより
Anyway, you start school tomorrow, right?
来るよ。
Yeah, I'm a little nervous though, which is why I came in early for the tour. He bid her farewell before running away down the hallway. She hoped he would walk down the stairs and leave through the school entrance like a normal person.
大丈夫なのか
What if he's really going to be okay here? The image of him disappearing into the distance popped into her head, in spite of her ire. She had no intention of spending any more time with him, and yet she felt strangely anxious. She couldn't tell if the feeling was fueled by concern or irritation. Why had she even gotten angry with this insignificant transfer student in the first place? A strange day with a strange transfer student resulting in strange emotions. Her head tilted as she reflected on what should have been a more enjoyable day than the irritating experience she just had.
いっか
Whatever.
どうせこれっきりなんだ
Doesn't fussy him again. You do go to the same school. It's much more than likely you'll see each other again. So the rain echoed quietly all around her, statistically speaking. The grey sky seemed frozen in time. It was impossible to discern whether it was morning or evening. Mr. Yamasiro and Aoko were likely the ones left at school. The unlit classroom looked overly gloomy and ominous as Aoko stood in it alone. She put up her left sleeve. Her dainty and remarkable watch showed that it was almost 1 o'clock. He was right about the time. Yeah, but how did he know the time? She looked out the window at the grounds below. She saw a boy in uniform running through the rain without an umbrella. A sight she must have seen before, but for whatever reason it affected her far more than she wished. Aoko did not stop by the faculty room before heading home. While Mr. Yamasiro's offer to drive her home was tempting, she decided it would ultimately be far more satisfying to ruin his day just as he had hers. She walked as quietly as she could toward the entrance and opened her bright red umbrella. As she predicted that morning, the rain was waning in the afternoon. This rain would probably cease completely in an hour or so. The distant sunshine would likely have reached her by the time she arrived home.
まそれも
Ah, I suppose it could be worse. She shrugged her shoulders in resignation. She neither liked nor disliked rain, but she found herself enjoying a walk home with her red umbrella in hand. The teachers at Misaki High School weren't fond of bright colours, so Aoko's red umbrella was an unusual sight. A ghost story about how the umbrella was once pure white had been making the rounds, but it featured Aoko instead of a ghost. It was with that umbrella that she made her way towards Misaki Station. Misaki Private High School took its namesake from the town it was in. The area was once a sprawl of farmland and woodland, but rapid growth over the last 10 years had led to unprecedented modernisation. There were some who fought to preserve Misaki's natural treasures. I agree in principle to preserving the land, but not at the expense of our prosperity. With those words, the mayor snuffed out the voices of the minority and ushered in a long-term plan for a new urban development. More than enough funds for the urban development were collected. and the unassuming town of Misaki became the largest municipality of Misaki City in merely 10 years. Even though it lacked the modernity of neighboring Yashirogi or the elegance of Misaki Hills. Oh, Jesus Christ, these names, bro. What did people expect? To keep the town in the top of the mountain forever? It's not like they were going to flatten the mountain or something.
山ごと切り崩すって言うなら別だけど。
Urbanization had been contained to the lowlands around the station, with most of the hills and mountains still standing as they did 10 years prior. The exhaustion of funds succeeded in protecting the old Misaki where the citizens could not. It became a truly unsuburban town, welcoming an increasingly urban population with its vestiges of old country charm. Old country charm. Misaki High School is a private school established long before the town's current state. The original campus, built 50 years ago, is located high up in the mountains, making its current location its second incarnation. The path to the old grounds was not only steep and remote, it had become an overgrown game trail with the passage of time. For these reasons, among others, Misaki High School had been shut until almost 20 years ago, when it received a donation from a department store chain that allowed for the construction of a new campus in the city. And thus Misaki High School reopened its doors, the old woodland campus forgotten. In fact, most of the students attending Misaki High School were not from Misaki at all. The hardy rustic people of this country town preferred prefectural schools to private ones. Truth be told, Aoko herself was one of them. All she had wanted after junior high was to move to Tokyo, where she hoped to spend her days touring her favourite bands on her way to entering a public university. But her hopes were dashed with her sister's departure, so here she was, walking alone in town with only an umbrella to keep her company on what should have been a day off.
思い返してみると、
Look back at it now.
私の人生
So her whole life has been one disaster after another. Her frustration evaporated into the cold December air.
でもま、いっか。
Oh well, at least it's not
それ
boring.
は死ぬわけだし。
With those words, her mood brightened a bit as she left the school in her wake. The busy part of town met her at the bottom of the gently sloping road. Misaki's train station was brand new. Once looking no prettier than an abandoned factory, it had been renovated into a multi-purpose structure with huge department stores on its east and west sides. When the department stores first opened, I would put myself on to Do Not Disturb on Discord real quick. She had no shopping to do today, so she passed them by. What she really wanted to do was rest in a cafe, but she fought the urge, knowing her roommate would never let her hear the end of it if she frittered away her money. Uh-oh. She looked back and blinked. For just a moment, she could have sworn she had seen someone suspicious in a red dress out of the corner of her eye. That was a little creepy. Here. I just want to check something real quick. It seems interesting. Okay, let's keep going. Must have been her imagination. The sixth sense chill she was experiencing down her spine was a familiar one at this point. She continued her walk home, brushing off the events as if it had never happened. In time, the chill faded and all that was left were the sounds of the town. She sighed heavily. Had she imagined it? Even if it had all been in her head, she was far from comfortable with the feeling that still lingered.
夏場の蚊だって
Even mosquitoes have the grace to buzz off eventually. She grumbled under her breath.
波乱万丈
Whether good or bad, this too shall pass, and the saying goes. Yeah, I've got enough on my plate as it is. Unfortunately, summer and bugs go hand in hand. She could see how bugs can be drawn to all the sweet fruit. Rank with grease and heat, the kitchen was closed for the time being. The lunch rush had come and gone. One last battle remained, dinner time. Only after the evening chaos could the kitchen crew remove their white armor and call it a day. In the midst of the war zone was a lone newcomer. Do I have to wear this? His voice was uneasy, betraying how new he was. I know how you feel, man. I feel the same. Unfortunately, it's the boss's orders, so just suck it up, okay? The future of this shopping arcade is at stake, apparently. I really hate to ask whether the rain has stopped, so would you mind going after me? Back in one piece, not buy your dinner. His bright orange co-worker clasped his hands together as if to beg for forgiveness as he settled him with this unreasonable task. "10 years ago, Misaki City was a town of farm and woodland. But everything had changed. The front of the station was now lined with tall multi-story buildings. The residential areas were similarly full of apartment complexes. The one rustic scenery around the station had long become a thing of the past. Shiro Nizuka was the only place in the city that still contained vestiges of the old town, pocket of the past inside an urban jungle. The road extended up a conspicuously high hill to an old residential district far from the hustle and bustle of the train station. Long ago it had been considered unwise to build on high ground, so nobody lived above a certain elevation. Shori Nizuka, sitting as it did atop a hill in the middle of town, was no exception to that convention and had no residences to speak of. The asphalt continued for some time, eventually giving way to a mountain road that was swollen up into the cover of trees. A lone vending machine stood to mark the boundary between town and beyond. Even the children knew that there was nothing beyond the new playground in development. That so enthralled to them. Well, that was not entirely true. There was nothing besides the haunted house. Aoko Aozaki traversed the long slope. I need to stop saying her first and last name combined, because like when it says like that, I just need to say like Aoko or something, because fuck. Aoko Aozaki is such a tongue twister of a name and I mess it up half the time. Below her she could see the whole of Misaki. The symmetrical town looked like a miniature set from this height. It would look like a painting if there had been a sea next to it, but unfortunately Misaki City was very much landlocked. While it was overcast at the moment, the scene was quite breathtaking on clear evenings. The view was the one thing that made the arduous climb worthwhile, and though she had been denied even that. I'd cycle home if it wasn't for this rain. Even a bus route would be a fine thing. Aoko had been using this road to get to school for almost 2 years now, but the journey had never got easier. Oh, it's locked. Guess Alice isn't back yet. With a weary shrug, she put her hand on the rusty iron fence. Quietly, the heavy gate swung open as if to welcome her home. Huh? She opened a locked gate without a key. There sits atop that hill, a haunted house. That is how the story much shared around the town used to begin. But fresh rumours about the house had sprung to life almost as fast as the town's modernisation. Despite being dilapidated and abandoned for many years, lights can be seen inside the house at night. An angry murder of crows often gathers atop the hill before mysteriously vanishing. Children get lost in the fog, never to be seen again. Late at night, a shrieking sound can be heard all the way to town. This particular piece of slander was the one Aoko wished to discredit the most. The final rumour was of an eye-catching luxury car that sometimes made its way up and down the hill. The rumours spread grew by the day, and while they grew, the house that everyone thought had rotted away was restored over the recent years. Demon wood on top of a hill no one dared to approach. Like a ruin, shrouded from view even on the brightest of days. Stood a relic out of time, a building from a fairy tale. The house was the Koenji Mansion. Everyone in town knew about the witch's house on the hill. It was an unabashedly haunted house where Aoko Aozaki resided, for reasons known only to her. Needless to say, it was not really haunted. The Koenji family was a grand Western-style mansion with a long and storied history, stretching all the way back to England. It was too small to be a dormitory and too big to be called a house. The main building contained as many as 3 normal houses' worth of rooms and was surrounded by a large, all-encompassing courtyard. The perimeter of the grounds was surrounded by a high iron fence covered in thorny vines. There was also an annex to the main building. Given such extravagance, it was no wonder that it inspired rumours. To the town residents, the mere existence of such a lavish and out-of-place mansion on top of the hill was a cause for suspicion. Rumours, lies, and slander were the prices we paid for fame. With only 2 lodges, it was hard to disagree with the perception that vampires must be living here. Well, not one, but Alice. She put her hand on the front door. It was a grand double door that would have paired well with a brass lock, and yet it was secured with little more than a simple keyhole. Pushing it open with one hand, she entered the supposedly haunted house. And by the way, if vampires were not enough to scare you, ghosts were known to appear on certain nights. No, I've played my fair share of horror games. Much like the weather outside, the foyer was overcast with shades of grey. Perhaps by deliberate design, the architect had chosen not to include any lights in the entrance area. The ceiling was 2 floors high. The only light in the room came from the skylight. It was particularly gloomy on rainy days. On moonless nights, it was like the world itself ceased to be. Alco decided the drawing room to the east would be a good place to rest, but knowing that she would not be able to relax until she changed clothes, she started up the stairs. The stairs curled up the wall to the second-floor hall. That was rhyming. There was a third-floor attic as well, accessible from the far side of the hall. She had never set foot there in the 2 years she lived here, though. The Quager mansion was more or less divided into 2 wings, east and west. Alco had been given the entire east wing, but 2 rooms more than enough as far as she was concerned. She had no desire to open a door that would trap you in a storybook world or lead to an attic that had only been used for storage these last 5 years. Alco's room was at the end of the east wing's long corridor. She had elected for a smaller room for no other reason other than she thought it would be easier to clean. It was furnished with a large bed, her beloved mahogany desk, a wardrobe and chest for her clothes, and 2 nine-shelf bookcases. That was the extent of what she brought from home. Her entire life of 16 years reduced to this. She also borrowed the next room down for her own purposes. Yeah, I should check on the watchtower and go from Alice. She needed to see if the project she had been working on all night had borne fruit. The study next door served as proof of the life she had been living for the last year and how different that life was from the one she had lived before. It was not a room for the person she had been. It was a room for the person she would eventually become. A place of solitude that only she could enter, or so she thought. Wow, not only did it break and vanish without trace, it looks like I've still got a long way to go. Go ahead, laugh it up, Robin. The nosy neighbour that had intruded upon his sanctuary flew away. While not exceptionally talented, Alco did not lack for effort and was not afraid to fail. One could have almost mistaken her approach for optimism. She changed out of her uniform and returned to the first floor. Down the stairs, she opened the door to the east wing into the corridor as dark as a cellar. The absence of windows meant it was pitch black without the lights on, so she flicked the switch and entered the nearby doorway. Life without electricity. Don't even want to imagine it. A better idea to update the drawing room. The walls were decorated with extravagant patterns, and around the room were large, majestic sofas and a luxurious Persian rug. Amidst it all was a 30-inch television that seemed completely out of place. It stood looking over the other furniture like the emperor with no clothes. The mansion's owner would have rather done without it, but to a commoner like Alco, it was an essential commodity. They fought over its presence at first, but eventually came to an agreement, and now mutually enjoyed this modern comfort. Yes, I want to talk. I came from a pretty traditional household myself. Now in a somewhat pleasant mood, she decided to brew some tea. She boiled some water in the kitchen, prepared a teapot, and made herself some black tea. Black tea. With a flop, she sank into the sofa. She took a sip of her tea, then another. Lulled by the ticking of the clock, she third step as she pondered how to spend her afternoon. The sofa almost seemed to be inviting her as she jumped even further into its comforting embrace. Alco blearily opened her eyes as she lifted her body up from the cushions. This was no dream or delusion. At some point, a girl sat down across from her. Not the least bit surprised, she reached for her teacup, but the tea within had gone completely cold. Should I doze off? She asked the question to the girl on the other side of the table. Yes, the girl answered without lifting her gaze. When silent, she could have been mistaken for a beautiful doll. The girl sitting on the opposite sofa was reading an old book. She had delicate limbs and pale white skin. Not a hint of humanity emanated from her melancholic aura. She had darker hair than Alco, and her icy eyes were focused on the pages in front of her. Her clothes resembled that of a nun, but were actually her school uniform. In Alco's humble opinion, the gloominess suited her. She evoked something like out of a painting. There was something unreal about her, as if she were frozen in time. The wide of her gently arched neck was so lovely that even Alco found herself enchanted by it. The girl was the one of the haunted house's 2 residents. Her name was Alice Kwanji, and she was the same age as Alco. How long was I asleep? At least an hour. You'll catch a cold if you keep sleeping here. Alice answered differently, not that it bothered Alco, who was now used to it. She looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it was already 7. She'd been asleep for 2 hours. The day had been a rough one for her, and she had slept little the night before, so it was no surprise that she had dozed off for as long as she had. You could have woken me up. Now my tea is cold. It was already cold by the time I got here. I'm sure it was. I'm just saying. Alco drank down the rest of the cold tea in one gulp. In the poorly heated Kwanji mansion, there was more than enough to clear her head and wake up. Nothing quite beats this tea, not even the expensive kind from Britain. Anyway, welcome home, Alice. The universe seems determined to keep me from even the occasional luxury without you. What is it about today? It's just my luck or what? Let this random Jew temple visit just be safe. Alco shrugged her shoulders as if resigning herself to her fate. Something happened? After 2 years together, they knew each other quite well. Alco had one way of asking questions, and Alice had another. Alice asked without raising her head, and Alco gave her the details. I should start by apologizing. The project I was working on all night was a total failure. I only took my eyes off it for a second, but I think it boiled over and fell apart. Though I'll add that I shuffled the circulation codes as a precaution. Alco tried to laugh it off as if it was someone else's problem. And? Something came out this morning and I was called to school. So we showed this transfer student around and it took up my whole day. By the time we got back and it finished without trace. You're not mad, are you? Hardly. If I got mad every time we broke something, there would be no end to the fighting. I have more material, so you can just start over. However, aren't you really the one who's angry? Alice was very much on point today. It was true that despite outward appearances, Alco was seething with frustration. That aside, true enough, the transfer student I mentioned earlier was a real piece of work. He's been living deep in the mountains and has literally zero common sense. People say that the mountains are like an entirely different world, but I had no idea how true it was, Alice. Alice raised her head in response to hearing her name. But Alco kept going on before she could get a word in edgewise. Alco, after all, expected no sympathy in the first place. We didn't get along well from the start, but things really took a turn for the worse, so I took him into a classroom. He apparently thought it was a place where you could get one-on-one tutoring. That's not all. I mean, you're never going to believe this. What do you think he asked when I politely explained what a classroom is to him? He goes, but then what are the other classrooms for? Unbelievable, right? And a classroom is a classroom. No matter how vague or unhelpful anything I said was, he just kept nodding. It's like he was just taking everything at face value. I don't know if he just lacks an imagination or never uses it. Anyway, he at least seemed to grasp most of what I told him the first time around, so I suppose he's not a complete idiot. It's rare to see you so judgmental. It's really worth getting worked up over someone like that.
りとも気に
You
し
couldn't
ない
get less about him. I'm just worried he'll screw up somehow. What she was really worried about was having to clean up that mess if and when it happened. When he jumped out the window. That had to be it. If not, it would mean she had no real idea why she could not get him out of his head. Get him out of her
案外ア
head.
リスと気が合うかも
Something like that. Okay. Well, he was a weirdo, alright. You two would probably hit it off great.
三門異会はいい
Another world in the mountains doesn't sound so bad. But from her eyes, it was clear that the question of whether they would get along was irrelevant, given that they would never meet in the first place. Alco gave a non-committal response.
ところでアリス
Anyway, what have you been reading?
霊的進化論の
A book about spiritual evolution based on the spiritual diary.
スウェーデンブリー
Diary.
そんなの
Ah, Swedenborg, huh? Isn't that really worth reading again?
新書なら退屈だけど
Would bother if it were the original, but this is a knockoff.
彼の欠点と
It exaggerates the pros and cons of Swedenborg's style and reads like a well-written adventure. Having the secret organization Kant standing in his way was a nice addition.
筆跡は
The handwriting of the notes in the margin belongs to your grandfather, by the way.
へえあの人
Huh, I had no idea he was into that sort of thing. He had a great sense of humor, I really miss him. Alco seemed nostalgic over her now-deceased grandfather.
あなたのおじいさん
Just contacted you this last summer, didn't he?
よしてよ
Do we really have to go there? Why can't dead stay dead? Alco sighed and lay back on the sofa. The soft cushions caved in under her weight.
話は戻るけど
As I was saying, Alicia glanced at Alco. Her body, buried in the sofa, remained as still as a corpse. It was clear Alco had tuned out of the conversation. Alice silently chastised her with a look. The more she thought about it, the less important the events of the day seemed to become. If she just ignored Alice, the conversation would end there. They would eventually get up and leave today's mistake unresolved for another day. However, that's not the kind of person Alco Aozaki was.
いいわよ何
Yeah, what is it? She asked, still lying down.
今日できなかったの
It's upsetting that you failed today.
反省してる
Like I said, I'm thinking about it. I need to focus on becoming a full-fledged mage before thinking about school, I know that.
ならいいけど
I hope you do. The coldness in her voice made Alco gnash her teeth. She knew what Alice was trying to say. Wanted to say. She knew better than anyone. The veneer she wore for school was different than the way she lived at home. While it could be called hiding in plain sight, Alice thought it was silly. And what the sounds told her was,
覚悟を決めろって言
I
う
got in mind already, I know. Today's failure was not a colossal one. She just happened to upset the delicate balance between her home and school lives, chasing one at the expense of the other. And yet that careless mistake was a clear sign of Alco's lack of commitment.
アリスは関係ない
This doesn't concern Alice, it's my decision to make. She'd only known for sure for the last year and a half, but she'd had a hunch for as long as she could remember. Make the choice and the day will come. It was little wonder that her morals and conscience had been stripped away. Alco pushed herself back up. She was met by Alice's cold beauty and wordless gaze.
オッケーアリス
Okay, Alice, we can do it next week.
それでいいんでしょ
That work for you?
ええ青
As long as it works for you. Alco could not help but shake her head, feeling like she was hearing something similar for the second time that day. Even in the comfort of her own, she couldn't banish thoughts of that country boy from her mind.
じゃあ下準備はよろしくね
How did she set it up then? That's still beyond my capabilities.
場所は例の公園でいい
Should we do it at that park?
妥当な線ね
Sure. The line there is suitable enough, but what about the other thing?
そっちの方が急務じゃない
Isn't that a more urgent concern?
時と場合
Depends on the conditions. I'll let you know if there are any changes to the woods. After that brief exchange, Alice returned her attention to the book on their lap. Shop talk was over, and now they could return to their normal relationship as roommates. Alco grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. Since Alice was busy reading, Alco decided to tune into a variety show that had already started. Alice started to speak, but suddenly cut herself off. One of her delicate hands raised to her mouth. She would always cut herself off the second she realized she was about to say something trivial. Sometimes her self-restraint would hit too late, and she would make a gesture like the one she was making now. It occurred to Alco that the sound her cute little roommate made just now was different than the wah she blurted in times past.
何
Nanny? Sorry, Alco turned down the volume of the TV. Her intense grey eyes lit up like those of a mischievous cat.
どうっていうこと
Nothing really, but...
ないんだけど
But what? See their face. Alice looked away bashfully, not knowing if she should bring it up or not. It was times like these that her expression carried a real warmth and surprising charm. If you could see her in this moment, Alice's father would have to admit that her name suited her perfectly.
今日
Just that I saw something strange in my home and wanted to tell someone about it. Alco. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Oh, but I could
つまらない
just... Oh, I could do that. Okay, like that. It's silly, really, but I just can't make sense of it no matter how much I think about it. Alco, do you have any idea what a man-sized cat would be riding around town delivering meals? Why a man-sized cat would be riding around town delivering meals to people? For a second, Alco thought Alice was trying and feeling miserable to make a joke again. One would think that about anyone, really. She seemed completely serious. Even if Alice's sense of humour fell flat for Alco, the story already sounded more fanciful than Alice's usual attempts at jokes. Alco concluded that her roommate was talking about something she had actually seen. What? There are a few things off about that. Maybe we should break it down. Let's not. Even I can think of a few mundane explanations. I'm just asking because I can't figure out why somebody would do that. Maybe it's as simple as someone just dressing up in a finely crafted catsuit to deliver food for a restaurant.
難易度以前に
I'm more worried about the person doing it than their reasons personally. Alice nodded tentatively at her words. But whatever does it for them, I guess, in a world with people like us, weirdos that live about like mountain hermits, there's no telling what kinds of freaks are out there.
住人トイレよ私だったら
I personally would have just gone up to them and asked what they were doing. Alice's gaze drifted at that. A delivering cat riding through neighbourhoods in the evening. Sounds like something straight out of a fantasy story. Hey, what should we do for dinner tonight? Speaking of delivery, maybe we should order in. Alco loved getting takeout. Her face glowed as she spoke. They had no hard rules for dinner, but if one of them was in the mood to cook, they made it a point to make enough for two. At the very worst, this would have meant entire weeks without dinner, but the two of them agreed that this was the system that worked best for them. Whether they found cooking to be too much effort or simply liked ordering out, nights like this one were a common occurrence, much to the chagrin of the restaurants of Misaki Town. Delivering to the mansion meant coming all the way up to the top of the hill, the source of their disgruntlement.
時間は8
Still before 8, so we're good. Really in the mood for konjitsu tonight. Haven't had their tsukimi soba in ages. I don't know how to pronounce that. Kongetsu, maybe? The Hungry Student Council president laid out a stack of takeout menus like she made my fan a deck of cards and excitedly scanned for anything that stood out. Alice casually responded without sparing so much as a glance.
悪いけど
Sorry, I might have already had dinner. With those words, Alco froze. All deliveries required a minimum of 2 items. She was out of luck without an accomplice. Cruel society had decided it couldn't be bothered to deliver it to a princess who only ordered a single serving of food. Instantly, to counteract orders from the Hilltop Mansion, the restaurants had declared the minimum number of orders would be 3 starting next year. Alco and Alice were still in the dark with this fiendish change in direction. Trinita! Is that why you were late getting back? Between the bus ride and the walk, the trip home takes only 20 minutes. Should have known something was up when you didn't get home before 5 o'clock.
敵だったわ
Unfortunately for Alco, she had been too out of it to even remember that she was the one who fallen asleep.
ああひどいよ
Talk about Ice Queen. I thought it was clear that if either of us got food, we would bring enough home for the other person. Didn't I bring back something for you when I ate out last time? It was unknown how serious Alco was being, but she was visibly angry. She had already woken up hungry that morning, and from the time she was called into school till now, she had consumed nothing but tea. Some more miracle that her stomach was not growling. She knew it was her own fault, but she persisted, wanted to get revenge on Alice for scolding her earlier.
この前ってあれの
By last time, you mean
あなたが都心に
the time you went into the city and ate sushi but only came back with a plastic bag full of convenience store food? That time. Alco had kicked a hornet's nest. So what? It was better than nothing, wasn't it?
真実が時に
There are times when you'd be better off saying nothing at all. Alice's eyes gaze pierced right through her. Alco had certainly crossed the line by going on and on about how the sushi circled around the restaurant while Alice ate her convenience store meal. Wow. But new things fascinated her, and she couldn't contain her curiosity towards the conveyor belt sushi shops that started popping up at the time. They were nothing short of miraculous. Even honesty could be a sin, given the right circumstances.
わかったわかりました
Fine, I get it. Does this at least mean we're even now? Alice went back to her book without so much as recognizing the question. The fact that she did not confirm it made Alco anxious.
仕方ない
Well, today's been a total disaster. Guess I'll just whip up something in the kitchen. She stood up, announcing her intent to no one in particular.
引き寄せ
Oh, I almost forgot. Where did you end up eating anyway? Alice's hand froze to her page. She suddenly shut the book she was reading and stood up as if at wit's end. She went across the drawing room with the book in hand. When she reached the door, she stopped and turned toward Alco.
聞きたい
You really want to know?
まあ
Sure. Alco nodded timidly, cowed by Alice's sudden vigour. Alice continued in her matter-of-fact way.
その猫が余ったメニューを
The cat gave me one of his leftover deliveries. And with that brief response, she left the room. Tuh! What was that? Little happening last night. Did I get something? Complete chapter 1. Next episode. I hear this game's like, if you don't want to like 100% it, it's like 22.5 hours long or something, so. Let's go. Little happening of last night.
都会は魔界だ
The city is really strange,
けど
but a pretty easy place to live once you get the hang of it. Sojiro sighed listlessly. He looked down at the window schoolyard below, lost in thought. December was written at the corner of the chalkboard. He could not believe 10 days had already passed since he transferred to the school. The last vestiges of autumn had faded with the change of the month. The trees were all but barren, and the ground below them a mat of fallen leaves. Fourth period was classics. An elderly teacher stood at the lectern and rambled on. While he had finally gotten used to the classroom, he still had a long way to go to get up to speed in his classes. Lacking even the basic understanding most students learned in their early scholastic life, it was a battle for Sojiro to keep up. Even if he wasn't able to grasp all of the content right away, but he at least tried to memorize everything in the hope that he could make use of it down the road. Which is why losing himself in his thoughts was about the last thing he should have been doing. He would normally chastise himself for daydreaming, but... Troublingly, he was unable to concentrate in class today. Sojiro could not place the source of his lack of concentration. It could not have been the winter in the city, it was much milder than the mountains. Neither was his part-time job particularly tiring. He was not any more physically fatigued than the average student, so there could not be it either. Others might conclude that it was because the courses were boring, but that seemed off the mark too. Sojiro did not share his classmates' opinions about their classes. On the contrary, he rather enjoyed his class time. No, his frame of mind was not to blame either. Trying to figure out what was wrong only made him more depressed.
いけない
What's wrong with me? It's not like me to be so distracted. He scolded himself and turned his attention to the chalkboard. The rhythmic ticks of the chalk were sending him into a slumber, but he somehow managed to resist their lullaby. And yet he was still unable to focus on the class. Sojiro reflected silently as was his custom and sighed inwardly. Deep down he knew the real source of his agitation. The events of the previous night were the only thing it could be. With the chime to signal the end of class, the teacher bowed next to the hallway. To see him off, the 30 or so students all stood up from their desks. The clock, which had seemed to slow dramatically around 11:30, now struck noon. Tension seemed to fade from the room all at once. What the fuck does this guy face? The release from a difficult lesson was the start of lunchtime. The highlight of school life. Masaki High's cafeteria was not particularly known for its quality of food. Complaints that the quality was below that of a private school went unheeded, and the same unique flavours appeared on the menu each and every day. Private school prices, coupled with subpar quality, led the majority of students to opt for box lunches instead. Sojiro's Class 2C was no exception. The boys muscled as many as 10 desks into what resembled a long dining table. Conversely, the girls divided themselves into small tables of 2 or 3 desks with practice eased, and started chatting within their cliques. No single student wasted even a single second of their precious lunchtime. Where both sides differed in method, they shared a common goal. Sojiro was struck dumb by the efficiency of the transformation. Even after 10 days, he was unable to keep pace with the rest of the class and remained seated where he had sat during the previous period. Over here! Over here! The voice came from the large makeshift dining table near the window. Hosuke Kinomi was beckoning him over while leaning back in his chair in a way that looked like he could fall backward at any second. He was regularly shot down by others in the class for being lazy and crass, but his earnest nature kept him from getting on anyone's bad side. Though something could be said for not being so forthcoming all the time too. Time's wasted, let's eat. I've got a bunch of leftover spring rolls from yesterday, but when my dad saw him, he told me I shouldn't waste him, so that's the only thing we got. Seemed the end game was to find someone who might take pity on him and trade him for something better. Two of them worked at the same restaurant, so he was one of the few people Sojiro knew before starting school. It was also the reason Sojiro was able to learn the true meaning of the phrase, can't live with them, can't live without them. Hey, Suzuki, get your ass over here. It's the long-awaited canned food festival today. So we're really going through with this? We're absolutely sure we want to do this. You bet your ass we are. Sure, the stuff is processed to hell, but all the canned crab you can eat. This ain't no sardines in a can, dude. You for real? Then hell yeah, count me in. Is there enough corned beef for everyone? Or is it first come, first served? That's not something you can eat a ton of, you know, and the first can tastes any good. With Suzuki on the board, we'd be at an even 7 cans apiece. What a lifesaver. So what's up with your lunch, Kenobi? It looks harder than the cans. The boys usually pass the time by making fun of each other's lunches, but today they were united against a common foe. A pyramid of countless cans stood in the middle of the table. They had all been taken from the pantry of a certain student's house, and the expiration dates on them had all been scribbled out with a marker. Alright lads, everyone got your can openers? Eating them sucks, no one likes leftovers, but these metal demons must be slain at all costs, even if it means missing 5th period. Oh, and a special thanks to our sponsors, Downtown McCoy and Nakayama Market. And big thanks to our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legend. Yeah baby, then let's eat. The boys united as one and hoisted their can openers into the air. Eat up, Suzuki, there's enough can openers to go around. I thought I told you yesterday that I'm not interested in being your taste tester. And besides, at least half of those cans are past their expiration date. Oh, come on, live a little. Quite an inexplicably excited group of guys. Their real motivation seemed to be to spread the pain. But moved by their energy and conceding defeat, Sojiro got up from his seat and joined them. And before he could, hey, go to a restaurant, don't you? Forget them, Suzuki. Come with us. Another interested party joined the fray. A girl with short, but stylish hair called out to him. She had also tried to get Sojiro to join the track and field club several days earlier. Thanks for the offer, but I'd rather not, he answered with a troubled look on his face. On their table was nothing but a pile of fruit Sojiro had never seen before. What? Why? You don't like papayas? We've got mango and coconut if you want something else. And don't tell anyone, but we've even got a Yubari melon. The members of the fruit group pumped their fists in unison at their last delicacy. Wait, coconuts? Can you even eat those? I'd like a mango if you have any extra. Idiots! Meat! Meat! Anything else is just gonna make you weak! Sojiro couldn't keep track of all the voices flying across the room. That's one of the weirdest lines I've ever said. All I know is that nothing good would come out of either of those choices. That being said, he found it difficult to refuse them outright. His tendency to accept others' goodwill at face value occasionally left him frozen with indecision. Not accustomed to regular human interaction, he was unable to judge when it was or was not appropriate to turn someone down. Someone tapped the last little lamb on the shoulder. Don't mind them. If you get involved with every idiot who advises you to do something, you'll mess up your whole life. Just can't turn them down, you know. And you guys, I'm trying to lead this good soul over to the dark side. An appropriately loud voice echoed throughout the classroom behind him. Vice President. So Joe turned around to see a boy about a head taller than him. With long hair, while it came to him and brushed back, giving it an appealingly windswept look. His attractive features belied the contempt for the classroom his eyes carried. Unlike the perpetually dopey-looking Sojiro, he was an extremely attractive boy, capable of captivating anyone who so much as glanced at him. In most cases, such boys' presence would be met with awe and respect, however. Oh look, our mighty Vice President has graciously decided to pay us a visit. I thought you were going to take up residence at the cafeteria so you wouldn't have to see our stupid faces anymore. Hee hee hee. Have you also, Your Highness? You're slumming with the commoners eat gruel from their troughs. Shouldn't you be sipping tea with the babes from Class A? Why'd you leave Suzuki alone, huh? First Lady Aoko has him for him, now His Highness too. What could he have done to have earned the attention of such royalty? Really? But Suzuki is such a goody two-shoes. They've broken any rules. Well, the rules of the school at least. Wait, could it be that Tsukiji really switched teams after Aozaki rejected him? They continued to give him a hard time. So Jiro could not help but feel sorry for him. Class vice president, on the other hand, showed absolutely no reaction whatsoever. He glared at them with a bored look and simply raised his voice. You freak should get some new material. Why don't you spend your time more productively for once? Like helping with the special winter cleaning team. Yeah, you heard me. Only one student in the entire school has signed up so far. Having all of Class C with us would be a huge help, but I guess you want me and Yazaki to do all the work. The menacing growl in his voice contrasted greatly with the boy's well-constructed looks. Both Team Canned and Team Fruit's words had doused like a fire being smothered. This was partly due to the fear of the boy, but mostly due to the fear of the special winter cleaning team. Yes, the special winter cleaning team. Joining meant spending part of your winter break cleaning up the old school building and mountainous rear courtyards that had been neglected by the previous two student councils. It was a form of legalized torture that could potentially ruin 3 whole days of your winter break. And forget about any compensation in the form of extra credits. No, his pointless volunteer work for a student council president. It's practically a miracle that they had even found a single volunteer. I'm sorry, but we're clearly not fit enough. Yeah, that's it. That stuff takes conditioning. We'll just eat our canned food in the corner now, okay? Yeah, us too. We're anemic, you see, and if we don't eat this fruit, we'll die. Then we already have plans or something. All of the students but one scuffled away. That's much better. Lunchtime is based in silence. I'm tired of people complaining that you guys make even more noise than the freshmen. Get together, you losers. The mob meekly scurried away. Sojiro turned to join them, but as he did... Hold on, Sojiro. You're with me. The hand and shoulder held him in place. Jeez, who does student council think they are anyway? Barging into our classroom to lecture us on table manners. Kenobi cursed him under his breath to his friends and second the vice president turned to go. What was that, Kenobi? Oh, you want to become our second volunteer? Perfect, I'm making the best winter vacation you've ever had. Vice President must have heard everything Kenobi said because he gave a thumbs up before figuratively jabbing it in his eye. Yo, is this guy for real? This is voluntary, isn't it? Hey, voluntary if you're gonna force people to do it, am I right? The problem child of Class C laughed merrily. That was yesterday. The school has since accepted the President's proposal that council members be able to forcibly enlist students for participation. And recommendations by the President and Vice President are ironclad. Refusing them means breaking the school rules in addition to facing Aozaki's wrath, which, let me tell you now, I won't be able to stop. You hang me by my balls here. This is extortion or blackmail or something. Kenobi's terrified shrieking continued behind them as the Vice President and Sojiro left the classroom. What are we gonna do with you, Sojiro? With me? Are you busy with other things, Vice President? The two entered the empty student council room. Misaki High student council had the use of 2 rooms. One was a large office specifically made for the student council. The second was an archive room, once used as a preparatory office for the math courses. As the latter of the two, the walls were lined with densely packed shelves, making an already cramped room seem even more confined. For this reason, it served more as a private refuge to the student council. 2 students sit across from one another. The Tobimaru Tsukiji. He was the son of the chairman of Misaki High School and the vice president of its school council. Like Sojiro, he was in his second year and first met the transfer student a week earlier than when the task of looking after him was dumped onto the student council. I told you stop calling me that. People may as well call me the president's dog, the shit I have to take from her. As self-deprecating as his words were, he hardly seemed dissatisfied with the arrangement. He took a snack from his pocket and grimaced at it before taking a bite. The 100-calorie energy bar sacrificed flavour for efficacy, but somehow not enough to prevent him gnawing on it like a piece of jerky. I see what you're saying, Tobimaru, but being a dog isn't exactly a good thing. Sojiro sat in the chair with a concerned look on his face. Huh? What's wrong with dogs? Dogs aren't good. I mean, it's bad comparison in the first place, but dogs are way scarier. You grew up in the mountains, and you're still afraid of dogs. I'm afraid of most animals, but dogs are in a class of their own. A pack of wild dogs is particularly terrifying. They're as tenacious as they are fast. No matter where you run, they'll chase you as long as there's still life left in them. Sojiro opened his lunch as he spoke. Inside the bright green cloth, 3 beautifully made triangular rice balls. Yeah. Would you look at that? Look at what? What do you mean? Oh, nothing. It's just that those are some special looking rice balls you've got there. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm trying to compliment you, you idiot. Sojiro was always confounded by phrasing that could be interpreted in multiple ways. Euphemisms and subtle sarcasm were often lost on him. It was only on rare occasions like this one that he chose to confirm what was being said. Tobimaru had come to suspect that Sojiro had a very black and white way of seeing things.
ところで
Say, does that hard chunk of flour looking stuff taste any good? Sojiro stared at the energy bar with a curious look on his face.
まずくはね
It's not meant to taste good. You can try it if you want.
人間
People should know back when it comes to the 3 base desires. Tobimaru quickly finished off his bar, put another one on the table, and grabbed one of Sojiro's rice balls. Sojiro failed to notice the rudeness of the forced exchange and gave the profit energy bar a try.
なんだか
Kinda tastes like dirt.
違いない
Now you get it. It's what Jordan's existence tastes like. Out of principle, Sojiro laboured over his energy bar, cringing all the while. He was both curious of the unknown and loath to leave something unfinished.
今無理に平らげる必要はない
Don't force yourself to finish it right now. The whole point of it is that you can eat it on the run. While the flavour isn't that great, at least it's consistent.
まあそっちは
Anyway, never mind that. You're getting used to how things work around here.
あ
Yes, you and Azaki have been a huge help. Tobimaru turned his eyes up to the ceiling, unable to handle Sojiro's carefree smile. As absent-minded as Sojiro might have been, his expressions were nonetheless incredibly earnest. It was like poison to someone as self-absorbed as Tobimaru.
だから青崎は
Now I know why Azaki goes so out of her way to avoid him. He took a bite from the rice ball to steer himself away from such thoughts. Though now cold, the rice had managed to maintain its freshness, startling Tobimaru. Wait a sec, I'm the one that has your back, you know that, right? Azaki told me you were too annoying to deal with.
なんでそこで君が怒
I
る
said something to upset you?
いや
Don't you get it? I'm the only one helping you keep your head above water while Azaki sits in the student council room digging up dirt on other students. I'm the one who gets lumbered with the crap jobs while she gets to... Tobimaru stopped himself, realizing how ridiculous he sounded. Sojiro, rightly so, and knew it was nothing to get this upset over. Well, whatever. I'm only here because she told me to be.
知ってるか
Do you know why she stuck me with you?
副会長だから
Because you're the vice president? Tobimaru's hands and face were dark.
あのな
Do you really think it's normal for a student council vice president to waste all his time with a single transfer student? Whatever, man. Try asking her directly if you get the chance. He'll learn who she really is. He snatched another bite of the rice ball while grumbling under his breath. There it was again, rice grains that were just dry enough to be fresh and tender in the mouth, a morsel that betrayed his humble description, which must have been delicately moulded by Master Chef rather than haphazardly clubbed into a ball. Just the right amount of salt, the subtlest of soy sauce notes coming from the center. It doesn't just whet your appetite, it stimulates the desire centers of your brain and... Oh, wow. Wow, frickin'...
丸
Tobimaru, you appear to be thinking out loud.
あいやそれほど
It's nothing, just color me surprised.
なあその字
Hey, Sonoji, what's this feeling anyway? It was only natural to inquire about the unexpectedly delicious bite, but nibbling away around the edges and had not yet reached its center.
ああそれはいい
Oh, that would be grasshopper.
ありえね
No way! The vice president choked on his cough. He assumed that Sojiro would prefer earthy ingredients instead of seafood on account of his mountain life, but he never expected he would use grasshoppers. Damn it, you should have warned me first, Sojiro. But man, was that delicious.
あ今
Oh, I was just joking. They locked eyes for a moment.
本当は鮭
It's salmon. I would never eat grasshopper.
おお
Oh, right. Yeah, I knew that. Of course it would be a grasshopper.
ああこんな
Yeah, I mean, you can't find fresh grasshoppers in the city to begin with. As curious as those words were, Tobimaru decided to let them go.
ったく
Jeez, Sojiro, that's not something to joke about. You want me to hurl or something?
君が青崎の
Those are bad things about Azaki then. Sojiro closed his eyes as he continued to chew on his rice ball. Tobimaru watched incredulously as Sojiro made no attempt to hide his disapproval.
おい
Okay, that I can't let go. You're really saying you were taking revenge for Azaki? Sojiro continued chewing. The country boy's silent protest said all that needed to be said. The vice president suddenly looked like he had been struck by lightning.
なん
What the? Don't tell me you've fallen for Azaki. You have, haven't you? Hey, I asked you a question, damn it. Tomari flew out of his chair and violently shook Sojiro by the shoulders. Sojiro opened his eyes. I forgot. You don't know about what happened a year ago. So if you did, you would be treading down this path of destruction, my friend.
君の言葉には誤解が
You've got it all wrong, but that's okay. Tell me what happened a year ago first. Tomari regained his composure and sat down after a moment's thought. Okay, I'm not one for gossip, but for you I'm making an exception. Tomari reassured himself that it was in Sojiro's best interest as a young man to know.
あれは青崎がまだ1年の頃の話だ。
It went down when Azaki was a freshman.
あの頃はみんな入学して
Everybody was new to high school, so nobody knew what anyone was like yet, her included. She's a total babe. I mean, just look at her. All the guys were crazy for her. Little did they know that soon after they would go crazy for an entirely different reason.
4月5月
First couple of months, the school descended into chaos. You gotta remember that early on in the year, no one cared about class hierarchy. So tons of guys were fighting themselves for over her. It was insane. Just getting into it now, Azaki was next to impossible. I understand. Why would that happen?
そりゃ
Because that's what happens when 100 guys like the same girl, duh. It would have taken Azaki 3 months just to have lunch with them and all individually.
だから
So people decided to fight over who got to ask her out.
まあいい
They're all a bunch of losers if you ask me, but what happened next is the juicy part.
でな
Those who emerged from the conflict unscathed made their move. And though she might not seem like it, she's the type who likes to put a guy down lightly, you know, because of their sincerity or courage or whatever.
言い寄ってくる
At any rate, she rejected all comers as politely as she could.
が
But there was one guy who couldn't take a hint.
3年のある
He was a third year who just refused to give up. Maybe he was a little bit nuts, it's hard to see it any other way at this point. Incidentally, Tomari decided to gloss over the fact that the student was also the former student council president.
学園ばか
But he didn't keep it up only at school. Later he started following her home. Creepy ass bitch. That must have been the last straw because Azaki wigged out.
青崎も
She's into packing in ways I'm not comfortable repeating out loud.
結果
Conclusion, the student didn't just request transfer, he tucked tail and left Misaki completely. Azaki was sentenced to a month of house arrest. Came to be known as the Bloody Town Hall incident. Fuck. She can tell you more about it than I can, but I wouldn't recommend asking her. Ask the school newspaper editor instead. She loves a bit of gossip.
飛び丸
Tomorrow, I get the feeling you're not telling me everything.
仕方ねえ
Hey, you'd do the same if you were me. Maybe the board chairman's son and all, but some things get scary even me. And I would graduate in one piece.
うちの女子
Want me to freak out every time I see a girl in a school uniform? Sojiro tilted his head to the side in confusion. Tomorrow had lost him with that comment.
ああいい
Well, whatever.
それより
What is it about Azaki that you like anyway? He tilted his head again, this time to the other side.
お前
Whoa, you're really that hot for her? As if you have pounds in her presence, that could be caused by fear, you know. Tell me how stupid enough to like her for no good reason. He tilted his head even further. What Tomari was saying sounded off, but Sojiro just decided not to press the matter. All the more because he found many of his own emotions towards Aoko Azaki to be incomprehensible.
そうだな
It's kind of strange, to be honest. I don't even know her that well. That was because they had not truly spoken to each other since the day she showed him around. Every time Sojiro tried to talk to her, she immediately got up and left. As fate would have it, they ended up working together that recent Sunday, but made only idle chatter on the way back.
けど飛び丸
There's something you don't know either, Tomaru.
時々なんだが
Sometimes I feel someone's gaze on me, and when I turn around to see who it is, she's there. Not like she's worried about me that I'll mess up. I know what you'll say, she just happened to see me in the hallway and was keeping an eye on me. Maybe she secretly wishes she could ignore me when we pass each other. Whatever the reason, I believe it considered genuine.
それに
That's the most important thing about all this.
実際の話
I believe the nature of hers has helped me out repeatedly. His tone was measured and sincere. Tomaru sighed with a tinge of regret. If not for those words, he could have introduced Sojiro to a more suitable girl with whom he could have lived out the rest of his school days in peace. He never went to such lengths for his other friends. Generally speaking, as if it was of some benefit to him, he was unafraid of exploiting another. If they were of no use, he didn't bother getting involved with them. That was how Tomomaru Tsukiji operated. Sojiro happened to be the type of person who provided no benefit to Tomomaru, yet somehow sparked in him a desire to help. It was not that friendship was completely alien to him. He should not have many people he felt that close to. So if Sojiro had really fallen for Aoko, it was not his place as a friend to try and change his mind.
やれやれ
Well, I guess it's true that love knows no reason.
そんなことはない。
Wouldn't say there's no reason for it. I can think of one at least. Thought she was beautiful the moment I first laid eyes on her.
ん
Tomomaru's shoulders slumped.
なんだ
After all that, you just like her for her looks. Listen to yourself,
綺麗
Sojiro.
なものに認め
What's wrong with appreciating
自
beauty?
分を綺麗に
I don't think there is anything wrong with judging someone by the physical appearance they work so hard to create. That sounded like a sophism to Tomomaru, but he had no counterpoint to offer.
しょうがね
Alright, I get it. I'll let it go. It's none of my business who you go after anyway. Now, Tomomaru was mistaken about one major point during this whole conversation. Namely, that Sojiro was not head over heels in love with Aoko and hoped to go steady with her. He merely liked her as a person. Nobody could have foreseen the massive calamity that would be caused by the simple misunderstanding.
だがよ
I've just got one piece of advice for you, Sojiro.
青崎は
Just because Azaki fights with someone doesn't mean she hates them. And just because she's nice to someone doesn't mean she likes them.
いい例が俺だ
I'm a prime example of that. He spoke with a pained sigh as if opening old wounds from the past.
詳しく
I see. What happened?
おう
Long story short, she used to be really full of herself, and I once tried to hit her.
の夏だ
Remember last summer, I'd already been working with her in the student council for a year at that point, and saw her more like a fellow soldier in the trenches than as a girl. When I lost my temper, I took a swing at her, and I think I've got a mean right hook. I slugged her pretty good, so I thought I'd won that round. But she stood up and beat the shit out of you. He had a decent look in his eyes as his words trailed off.
翌日になって
The next day, when I came to the student council room, I thought she'd be spoiling for a fight. She was the same as always. Since then, we've simply continued working together as president and vice president. Sojiro cited his story. He then said with absolute confidence.
今の話を
So you just wanted to brag about how close you two are? Clearly he had missed the point entirely.
なわけあるか
Are you kidding me? How the hell do you come to that conclusion after hearing a story like that?
としちゃ
I'm telling you that from the day forward I could never see her again as a woman.
なんで
Oh, I was mistaken. A look of disappointment flitted across Sojiro's face. Tomomaru revised his opinion. Sojiro was something of a simpleton. There was a quality to him that Tomomaru could not quite place.
とにかくだ
Take it from me, her standards are anything but normal. She won't like you for being nice to her, and she won't hate you for being mean to her. That's the kind of princess she is. Sojiro answered that he would keep it in mind as he looked to the clock. They had been talking for a while, lunch was almost over. Is there anything else he wanted to discuss? I didn't have anything to discuss in the first place. Why had Tomomaru even brought him here in the first place? Sojiro tilted his head in wonder, but shook it off to deal with the more pressing matters ahead.
よし
Could you stay a little longer? There's something I wanted to ask you. Tomomaru sat up straight, having never seen Sojiro's face look so serious before. Sojiro sighed his rice ball and cleared his throat.
実は昨日
It's about something that happened yesterday. He spoke solemnly, and as carefully as possible he recounted what had occurred the night before. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be where this episode of Witch on Holy Night concludes. I hope you enjoyed this. Or can I go like here, place bookmark, save data? Yes. Now I hope you enjoyed this episode of Witch on the Holy Night. There will be more, but I've got an exam tomorrow, so who knows what I'll be doing after that. But the next episode will probably come out tomorrow, since my exam's in the morning. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. This was slightly disturbing, at least the beginning was, but either way, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.